for those of you who don't know, which is probably nobody, Stephanie Nuria Sabato is one of our favorite speakers. She is a recurrent speaker, and she will be with us 3 more times at least this year. And we welcome her. She is a mystic, a world traveler, an ex-college teacher. Is that right? And
college teacher. Is that what you're
yes,
trying to say?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was a professor my whole life. Yeah.
Wow. She has studied with the Dalai Lama and Sister Teresa
And
and
Mother Teresa.
Mother
Yeah.
Teresa, sorry,
That's
and
okay.
and others whose names I can't pronounce.
Well, they're from a Sufi tradition, so my very close mentor, my last one actually in the body was Pir-o-Murshid Hidayat Inayat Khan, and before that it was his brother, Pir Vilayat Inayat Khan, and so they're all very close to my heart, and they always pop in when I'm teaching. Sort of say
Stephanie,
this,
for the
Kyle, I'm still not a co-host, sweetheart. Can you help me out there?
It says on my end that you are co-host. Let
Okay, I'm
me
trying to figure out how I can record, but
let me stop the share real quick. Maybe that.
thank you. I'm sorry, folks. This is how it happens, being in the moment.
can you still hear me,
Mm-hmm.
Steph?
I sure can.
While Kyle is fiddling, for those who weren't here when you explained the meaning of the name Nuria, I'm sure that the rest of our group would enjoy hearing that if you have a moment to do it.
Yes, and let me tell you, when someone becomes initiated in well, sometimes also well, in other traditions, because I also have a Tibetan name which I don't use. It's kind of my secret name, but yeah, I'm still not seeing how to record. Isn't that strange?
Do you want me to
Really?
send you the raw recording from our end after this?
Immediately. But can
Yeah.
you do that immediately, like through
Yeah,
e-transfer or something? Thank you.
sure.
I'd appreciate that so much, honey. Thank you. I should have asked you before everything got rolling. All right, so the name means when I was initiated, most people have names, and you can see there's some, Nurs everywhere, like Nur Latifa. She was one of my first students, right? And Ananda Noor, and you see this, I kind of keep that connection with that name with many of the students. And I'm so blessed with these beautiful beings in my life. But Nuria means sacred light. And Murshida Vera, who was my initiator and guide, some of you met her, she said to me, Nuria, this is the light that resides in all things. It's self-revelatory light. So everything has this light, but it's up to us to bring it forward to illuminate our paths. And I'll be talking a little bit about that today too. So, oh my God, Aziza and Jabbar are here too from Colombia. God bless. It's so I'm getting goosebumps. I'm so happy to see everyone. Okay, did that do it,
Great.
Susan?
Thanks so much.
Okay,
Yes,
hon.
perfect.
Thank you so much. Okay. Now, I didn't mean to interrupt all of this. Just I'm get freaky about being responsible, getting recordings um, into the queue, so to speak, for ourselves.
Well, proceed if and when you're ready.
I am ready. I'm going to take a look at the time, try to keep myself on track. Well, today's title of this talk is The Mysticism in Everyday Life. And we could probably call it many other things: waking up in everyday life, looking at the struggles for our benefit in everyday life. And I'm going to touch upon these things. Okay, so be patient through these first few sentences because I think they're important. And I want you to know I had this prepared months ago because I knew what the topic was and we knew I was going to be speaking. This is nothing like what I thought I was going to present because I think when you look at what's happening, I need to be spotlighted. Please, Kyle, can you spotlight me? Thank you, honey. So when you look at everyday life, I mean, the mystic is in everyday life, so everything becomes part of, well, it's starting to reveal itself in the light of the teachings. So I think this is the 12th writing of this, and I was still finishing it this morning. So just FYI. So if it feels a little funny, it's because I'm a little funny. So, but I wanted to make it pertinent. Well, if anyone's turned on the news this week, we know that in the early morning of January 3rd, the U.S. carried out a military operation, and there were some civilian casualties. And a few days later, we know that on January 7th, Renee Good was fatally shot by a United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer in Minneapolis. And every week, and it happened yesterday, this is a mirror behind me, so Joe's really sitting in front of me. I don't make him sit behind me. Every time we go to Mass, and there are the special intentions that we pray for, always at the end is added this: please remember in your prayers people that have endured or died through acts of violence and their families. So this is everyday life as well, but is there a benefit to it? I'm not here, and I don't think you are if you're here. We're not passing judgment. We're not debating politics. We're here to pray together and to offer our love and compassion for the benefit of all beings. Sometimes easier said than done, but we're going to try. This is one of my favorite quotes. You know, when I was teaching college, the college asked me to teach meditation as part of the staff development. So during lunch, people would come. We'd have a special room for us to gather, and they were from all the different disciplines. And I always tried to make things relevant so people could understand how to look at things in a unique way and perhaps focus our meditation. So this is a quote I almost always use, and this is by who I think is the great physicist. I'm like a groupie of Albert Einstein, and it's such a beautiful and mystical quote. Listen to it. A human being is part of a whole called by us, and I'm assuming the us is physicists, the universe, a part limited in time and space. Experiencing oneself, one's thoughts, and one's feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of our consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Beauty is a big word in Sufism. Our sort of slogan is love, harmony, and beauty. Love, harmony, and beauty. Well, there's a Sufi teaching that goes along with this. It says, now listen to this, because this is going to be like a koan. Look for the right in the wrong and the wrong in the right. The evil of the good and the good of the evil. Is there something in it? Is there anything that really exists without God? We can ask ourselves. This is indeed a difficult task, and I think people can struggle with this notion, but it is a teaching that we have in our branch of Sufism. So imagine just for a moment, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Remember when you were a kid and you'd lay in the green grass in the summer and you'd look up at that blue sky and it was infinite, and it's like, where does that end? Well, that's how vast we want our thoughts and our hearts to be. There's a Zen slogan, and it says, you've heard it, I'm sure, clear mind, don't know. Clear mind, don't know. The third patriarch of Zen teaches, the great way is not difficult for those who do not make distinctions. One more time. The great way is not difficult if you do not make distinctions. Only throw away likes and dislikes, and everything becomes perfectly clear. Our thinking, our feelings, our responses aren't clouded. So again, look at the right in the wrong and the wrong in the right, the evil in the good and the good in the evil. When confusion arises, clear the mind. Clear mind, don't know. Throw away likes and dislikes. Everything becomes perfectly clear. Perhaps I can illustrate this. If you're plugged into various social media feeds, it's likely that you're aware of the group of monks from the Vipassana Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Are you aware of that? Okay, so if you're not, you can easily find it. You probably don't even have to be on social media. There's probably a lot of videos, clips of their walking and meeting groups of people who are awaiting them. I became aware of this. A friend of mine in Atlanta was writing to me like, she was in tears. I'm just so touched and I'm so overwhelmed by these monks. And, it was just the sweetest thing. And so I started looking. So I was very grateful for that awakening that she gave me. But at any rate, they left on October 26, 2025, with the hopes of reaching Washington, D.C. by the middle of February. And the walk is intended to, quote, promote awareness of peace, loving kindness, and compassion across America and the world. Well, if you plug into some of those videos, you'll see that the walk isn't without conflicts. There's even been an incident where a few of the monks were injured in a car accident hitting them. They've recovered and they've rejoined the walk, even though one of them had a leg amputated. You'll see him in some of those videos. He's in a wheelchair and they're pushing him and bringing him along. And there's also a wonderful dog, but he has a part in the story in just a few minutes. Well, one of the monks, kind of their spokesperson, speaks very good English, had been invited to speak to a group in Georgia. And as he stands and has the microphone at his mouth, in the background you hear this mega, like amplified voice, screaming Christian slogans. Well, at least I'm from a Christian base. I go to Mass. I feel connected to that tradition. So, but, there's something about this radical yelling at someone, and the crowds, you can hear it. They're starting to stir and sort of react. Well, the dog's name is Aloka, and and they've given him Aloka the peace dog. And, he's walking at actually the head of the monks. And it's like it was on cue, Aloka goes, and the monk kind of giggles and bends down and pets Aloka, and the whole energy changed. Everyone went, instead of sort of getting angry at the people with the big megaphone, they went, "Aw." And the monk, he stands there very peacefully. Nothing is going to disturb him. To me, this was a mystic moment of synchronicity. And he very naturally and very calmly, in an unaffected manner, responds to the moment. And this is what he says. And I typed it out yesterday. I found the video and did it. "So, let us do the thing that we're supposed to do." And this is all going on in the background. We're not here to fight anybody. We're here to fight ourselves. The biggest enemy in this world is not the people outside. The biggest enemy in the world is excuse me, there's someone trying to get in, and I know this person. He's another Sufi friend. Thank you, Kyle. So let me start again. We're not here to fight anybody. We're here to fight ourselves. The biggest enemy in the world is not the people outside. The biggest enemy in the world is our inner self, our mind, our thoughts. So let everybody say what they want. Because we have freedom. We only have to fight ourselves and purify our mind. Well, this is such a beautiful moment. I hope you can find that video, because he's so unaffected and, just like in a peace lagoon of his own. And it's like this mystic equipoise. And he spoke from this deep place of what I would call mystic inner knowing, looking at the right and the wrong and the wrong and the right. He took this moment to turn it and make it into some beautiful teaching. That whole thing, we are here to fight ourselves. The biggest enemy in the world is not the people outside. The biggest enemy in the world is our inner self, our minds, our thoughts. Well, one of the great lessons, we were talking about my experiences in India, was the time that I was living there. I was telling you about that before we came, we started broadcasting. And this was, there was an incident, and it took place at what's called the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. This is where the most brilliant monks, lamas, and rinpoches are sent to be educated. Dialectics has to do with, it's philosophy, but it's looking at the deepest parts of Buddhist philosophy. So these brilliant minds are sent there, and that's for my story. I'll tell you my connection there, because I also had a connection. But right next, this is connected literally to the compound where the large public temple is, and Dalai Lama's residence. So this, I'm going to tell you how close this is. It was a deal. So this happened. It happened to be, the people here will appreciate this. What I'm going to recount, happened on February 5th in 1997. And I happened to be in New Delhi because there was a Sufi remembrance of the anniversary of the passing of the Sufi master, Hazrat Inayat Khan, who is the father of the two men that I mentioned in my bio. So I had this very deep connection. So it was the evening, and I was staying in the Tibetan colony, and that was called Majnu Tequila, and it is in the old Delhi, so it was in the old part of the city. And I had returned to my room, and it was about 8:30 in the evening. My God, you couldn't believe it. Oh, and there's the most frantic knocking at my door. I thought, what has happened? Is there fire? And they were yelling my name, so I knew it was someone that knew me. So I opened the door, and there were some monks standing there, and they were just like distraught. And I asked them what had happened, and they came in and they sat on the bed, and they were kind of gasping for breath, and they said, "We just heard word from Dharamsala that people have been killed at the Institute of Buddhist Dialect." It was very alarming for us, because it's usually a very tranquil, peaceful village we live in. So the details were sketchy. We didn't know exactly what had happened, but we knew some people had been killed. We didn't know the circumstances, but we knew we had to go immediately and try to get up there. It's a 13-hour bus ride overnight in the Himalayan mountains, but we ran and bought bus tickets to be sure we had them. We packed our bags and we went to wait for the bus, and also to see if we could get any more news. When we arrived the next morning in Upper Dharamsala, people greeted us, and they wanted us to know Dalai Lama will be speaking to all of us at the main temple at 9 a.m. So if you want to know what's going on, go there. So we gathered, and of course there's always a sequence of prayers that open any service, and so that was taking place. There's Mani prayers, the Perfect Heart Wisdom Sutra is recited in Tibetan. We make mandala offerings when we recite some Mani prayers, Om Mani Padme Hum. So the Dalai Lama speaks after all of this, and these are his first words. "When I heard of these assassinations," is what he called it, "I first became very angry." Well, this is shocking, the Dalai Lama telling us he became very angry. He said, "One of the monks was a monk from my area in Tibet, the region of Amdo. One of the monks was the person that I had asked to be the head of the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. And the third monk was from Taiwan, and he was always my translator when I was giving teachings to Chinese-speaking audiences."
Place.
We still have a ways to go to get Kelsey to be like Aloka, the peace dog, but we're working on it. So anyway, he said, and then I stopped myself, my anger, and I reflected on the Dharma, and I began to pray. Because what the Dharma teaches us is there is such a thing as karma. And although I may not know it, those three monks may have had from before some karmic debt that needed to be repaid, and it was exhausted in that moment, and they're now free. What I also know is that the people that killed them have a huge karmic debt to pay. And I began to arouse compassion in my mind and heart and to pray for them. Well, that changed my life. That kind of deep connection to the Dharma and this feeling of, what do I do when I'm in despair, confusion, conflict, anger? The Dharma. Grab a hold of the Dharma. So like the Dalai Lama, when tragedy comes, can we bring it to the light of our spiritual teachings? Then we don't have polarities that block our mind. This is cleared away. Things are no longer good, bad, evil, whatever. I mean, it just is. Buddhists call it isness. We can even ask ourselves, what would people that inspire us or the teachings inspire? So a lot of times you've heard people say, what would Jesus do? Or what would Buddha do? Or what would the Dalai Lama do? Or what would Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta do? And you can fill in the sentence with whatever your inspiration and ideal is. So through our practices, and Sufis are engaged in daily practices, we begin with purification practices. And through these spiritual practices, we experience, we hope, mental purification that clears away impressions, such as good and bad, right and wrong, gain and loss, pleasure and pain. This is all in light of the Dharma, in light of the teachings. And this, by the grace of God, will lead us towards some sort of wisdom to live in the world with. So my own teacher, Murshida Veer, and I think some of you have met her, she was a little bit tough, but she was always very sweet to me. She was fiery, man. She was so intelligent. She was so right on. But she'd always say, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get going. And the get going is one spiritual practice. And we might find it helpful to ask ourselves, and I've had her ask this, and one other senior Sufi teacher, what is God trying to teach you, Nuria, through this experience? It's a good question. Now, I know, because I know some of you more intimately than others, people have dealt with serious illnesses, with great losses, and they're here still. And what was God teaching? Us witnessing what they were going through, and them by going through it. Beautiful examples. This is mystic wisdom. We'd say in the temple when we were with Rinpoche, because I lived at his monastery, there was always this reference to seeing things with the wisdom eye. Not with these eyes, with the wisdom eye. That inner light, the nur that we were talking about. So the mystical soul at first strives to constantly seek that wisdom and truth that is revealed and illuminated by the great spiritual traditions and teachings. And I like this. I wanted to bring this in because I love Jesus. My mom always had this prayer, and I kind of came across it when I was doing some morning study recently, the power of the word just Jesus. And so when my mother got very ill with cancer, her priest guided her to not say the rosary in the traditional sense, but to use each decade of the rosary just saying Jesus, 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 and then stating her intention. And she did that also with our names and various circumstances in her life. So Jesus is a very powerful world, if you think that. I mean, it's kind of what you believe, that, well, it has a certain vibration, and it's very special. But I wanted to quote these few lines from the Sermon on the Plain, the Gospel of Luke, who I love, chapter 6. It says, Jesus commanded us to love our enemies. Wow, that's sort of hard. A lot of times we want to get even with our enemies or show them what's going on. Love your enemies. What a beautiful lesson. But he also says, but I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who abuse you. It's turning it, not personalizing it. When one strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from one who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. They may need them more than we do. And if you wish that others would do, and as you wish others would do to you, do to them. So this is that law of reciprocity. For a mystic, through life's up and downs and the appearance of separateness, wars, illness, death, you name it. The mystical soul sees one source through all things and strives to let go of limited beliefs and concepts of duality, again, good and bad, evil and, whatever. They search for the depth of understanding. I study some of the ancient mystics. A lot of us do. We read their poetry and try to understand things from their point of view. But there's this one, he was a mystic scholar. His name's Ibn Arabi, 13th century, was born and lived part of his life in southern Spain. It's a very potent area for mystics. And he was known as the first person to explicitly delineate the concept of the unity of existence. And in Sufism, we talk about that, the unity of all, or I may call it the one source of all. There's many names we could give it, but it means that all things in the universe are manifestations of a singular reality. It's just presenting itself in a myriad of forms. Those who know me, they've heard me quote this a lot when I'm teaching, so I'm going to quote it here. Seek to know that which transpires behind that which appears. Seek to know that which transpires behind that which appears. So we may be seeing things, but is that what's really happening? Okay, let me give you a little example. And oh my God, I just don't want to go over, but I want to keep going too. You can cut me off at any time. I'll come back to it in another class. But Joe and I had done a retreat with, what was his name? We went to Colorado. Alan Watts, we were there. And we were at the Shambhala Center. And there was this incident in the kitchen. And that morning, there was someone that was working in the kitchen, and she was very upset. And she was kind of a big girl. And I thought, what is going on? I said, what's happening? Because it was kind of strange to be at this retreat and have someone acting out like this. Well, someone had said, a big bear got into the refrigerator and ate the food. Well, she thought they were talking about her. But a big bear had actually gotten in the kitchen and eaten the food. You see how you gotta try to find out, if we can just grab ourselves, and see what's really going on. What do you mean a big bear got in the food? So yeah, things aren't always as they appear. We need to penetrate them. Now the Sufi mystic Hazrat Inayat Khan expresses it in this way. He says, all tragedy of life, all misery, and all inharmony are caused by the lack of understanding. And lack of understanding comes from the lack of looking deeply into life's phenomena. When one does not look at life from the point of view one should, like shift the view, then one is disappointed because one cannot understand. We've all felt that. We've been in a quagmire and we can't even think straight. Life is a puzzle. Yet, it's not for the outer world to help us to understand better. It's for us ourselves that we should help ourselves. So many times in my own life, I've grown by just sitting and doing nothing. I'm a person of action. I'm a little bit of a type A. I want to be a little bit ahead of the curve, but sometimes you can't. You just have to sit in it. You have to sit in, things and try to set aside judgment, the puzzlement, the bewilderment. These are all, in truth, great blessings. There's kind of a pyramid that Sufis look at of levels of realization, and some of those are up at the top. It's when we think we know, then we have to say, clear mind, don't know. So there's a moment, if we can just sit with it and keep asking, what is the impulse? What am I being taught? What do I need to learn? What do I need to understand? There's a moment, and then there's a shift, and then a new understanding arises, those aha moments, and the soul awakens from slumber, and it becomes more open, more feeling, more alive. And it's up to us to penetrate that veil of variety, that veil of illusion, to see God in all. In painful and confused moments, again, I say, where's God in this? We're not judging God. Judge is omnipresent. Judge is omniscient. So there's something of God in it all. It's hard to understand, but if we do, we can realize something beautiful. Before his passing, the Buddha's last words to his disciple, love this. Be a lamp unto yourself. That's the Nur. Be a lamp unto yourself. The Buddha was encouraging his followers to find the light of inner wisdom, see with the wisdom eye, the wisdom mind, through the reliance on the teachings, not an individual, not a person. They can be a guide and a very good example, but the teachings will always be there. They're incorruptible, and they're our ultimate refuge that guides us towards the light. The teachings can be complex, and I think our guides and the masters of these teachings can help illuminate things if we have some confusion and sort of pick up the needle that maybe we get stuck and help us. I've had that happen in beautiful ways in my own life. So in other words, each of us, no one person here, all of us have the light of truth within our souls. And it's our birthright. This is our birthright. We've been given this by God. But the beautiful thing is we have to search for it. And by doing so, we get back to God. If we nurture this light with the teachings of the great masters, it's like the Sufis use the metaphor, we're polishing the lamp or we're polishing the mirror. But what happens when you polish that lamp? The genie comes up and all things are granted unto you. And the light of the soul shines out. So I'm almost done here. Just focus on that phrase for a moment inwardly. Be a lamp unto yourself. Be a lamp unto yourself. And I have one last quote and then a closing. So again, the Sufi mystic Hazrat Inayat Khan says, the Sufi says the mystic says the whole explanation of religion is the investigation of the self. So when the Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself, use the teachings to investigate the self. We're not talking about some sort of fanatical belief in things or quoting quotes. We're using that to illuminate this light within further. The more, this is back to the quote, the more one explores oneself, the more one will understand all religions in the fullest light, and all will become clear. Sufism is only a light thrown on your own religion, like a light brought into a room containing all the things you want. The only thing needed was light. So remember, our life is a great schoolhouse. Arising circumstances are the best lessons because they give us opportunities to sort of wake up in life. And this is mysticism in everyday life. Allow me to just say, I want to, at the beginning of this year, I keep saying it's still January, we can still say Happy New Year. So I want to give you my loving best wishes for 2026. And may you be blessed and recognize your own mystical moments in life. Without attachment, celebrate them. Let them teach you and let them further awaken your soul, illuminating your life, but not just for you. Let your light help others. Now, kind of as our music meditation part, because I was asked if I wanted to lead a meditation. This is all meditation to me, but I would like to offer something. It is a beautiful mystical poem by Khalil Gibran. I think most of you know him. He wrote The Prophet, but he's written many other things. And this is titled A Tear and a Smile. And I would like, Kyle, would you please play that now for us? So thank you, everyone, for your time and your kind attention and just being here and sharing.
Oh my gosh, Stephanie. Beautiful and profound. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Technical stuff.